Good morning, all. As we enter into this hybrid service, please note that those of you participating via Zoom have been muted by our host, and we ask that in-house participants please remain masked while in the sanctuary. Also, be advised that this service is being recorded and, with the exception of joys and concerns, will be published online. Finally, if you wish, take a moment to arrange your own chalice at home. In the name of Providence, which implants in the seed the future of the flower, and in our hearts the longing for people to live in harmony. In the name of the highest in whom we move and who makes the mother and father, the brother and sister, lover and loner, what they are. In the name of sages and great religious leaders who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of the age of mutual respect. Let us renew our resolution, sincerely to be real brothers and sisters, regardless of any kind of bar which estranges us from one another. In this holy resolve, may we be strengthened, knowing that we are God's family, that one Spirit, the Spirit of love, unites us, and endeavor for a more perfect and more joyful life. Amen. The opening words are by Norbert Chapek, the originator of the Flower Communion service, and they are numbered 723 in our hymnal. Wayne Atto will light the chalice here in the sanctuary. I invite you to light your own chalice and place it where it can be seen by all of us, if you are able. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude for those who have lit the flame within us and the community. Thank you, Wayne. Yes. Before we sing the first hymn, let me remind our remote participants to leave yourselves muted and our in-house participants to remain masked. However, we want you and whoever is with you to sing with moi and Jan as big and loud as you like. Make it a joyous experience.
So please stand if you're able to sing the opening hymn, A Promise Through the Ages Rings, number 344. A promise through the ages rings, that always, always something sings, not just in May, in finch-filled bower, but in December's coldest hour. On Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community of Cambria. We are glad you've joined us today. We acknowledge that our UUCC sanctuary stands on land that has been and is still inhabited by coastal Chumash and Salinan indigenous peoples whose ancestors lived primarily in the San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. As a Unitarian Universalist community, we celebrate religious diversity and welcome all who journey in search of faith and spirituality. The UUCC is a lay-led congregation, inviting speakers from different religious traditions and spiritual or scientific backgrounds to speak at our pulpit. We encourage presentations covering a wide variety of topics and interests to our community that connect with the UU 7 principles. Today's service centers around the 6th principle. We affirm and promote the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. As naive or impossible as the 6th principle may seem, we should not give up on it. In the face of our culture's apathy and fear, we should imagine and help create a powerful vision of peace by peaceful means, liberty by liberatory means, justice by just means. We should believe and live as if we believe that a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all is possible. There is no guarantee that we will succeed, but we will improve ourselves and improve the world by trying. My name is Jan Callner. Mary Schwalbe and I will be sharing the Worship Associates' duties this morning. I would like to extend a special welcome to today's guests and visitors. We're glad you've joined us. If you're not on the mailing list, please visit the UUCC website at www.uuccambria.org so that we can keep you informed about all our activities. And please check out what's happening, our weekly e-blast sent to all members and friends. It's a great way to keep in touch with the latest news of this community. And a reminder, if you want to see this or any of the past Zoom services, recordings of them can be found on the UUCC website and Facebook. The membership committee invites you, non-members, to consider joining this community. Please contact Diane DeMarco or a person on the board if you're interested. So again, good morning and welcome to everyone. The affirmation is both a recognition of the nature of this community as well as a promise we make and aspire to. As we recite it today, let us internalize and assimilate the true meaning of our words. Let us now recite the UUCC affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. We set aside this time for any short announcements that would be of interest to our UU community members and friends. Please keep your items short and to the point. For any that need more explanation, please call or email the person after the service to be respectful of everyone's time. If you have an announcement, please raise your hand. And when Andy or I call your name, stand or unmute yourself and then speak. Ms. Triva.
Morning all, it's that time again. Tomorrow night, 5 o'clock, there is a board meeting. If you are interested, please email. Andy can send you the link. Thank you.
I have an announcement. I'm not going to ask for more money today for the scholarship committee because I think we've achieved our goal here. But I mean, if you have any laying around and you want to get rid of it, we'll take that too. But we have enough to give 10 scholarships. And this announcement is to thank you all. Thank you. It's just such a generous, generous community. So thank you. Anyone else here in the sanctuary? Andy, anyone out in Zoom land?
We do have someone. Lou Patelka, please unmute yourself.
Good morning. And I also thank everybody who donated towards the scholarships. They're wonderful recipients we have. Men's group meets tomorrow at the sanctuary, and there will be a Zoom link as well, 10 o'clock.
Thank you, Lou. Jan, I don't see anyone else remotely, but I will add that a reminder that the meditation group meets every Thursday morning here at the sanctuary at 10 a.m. All are invited. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Next week, Randy Schwalbe will present Faith, the Elmer's glue of belief, as only Randy Schwalbe can do. Sharing together some of our personal and significant joys and concerns brings us closer as a faith community. We invite you to share the milestones that are deeply felt as part of your personal life. But please be mindful and considerate of all who come to worship with us this morning. This is a time of community building. We also acknowledge using this moment to express gratitude or acknowledgement. The collective flames of these candles embody all the joys and sorrows which may have gone unspoken today, but are also deeply felt in this community.
The first reading is titled A Bouquet of People by Claire Feingold Thorne. Let us give thanks for a bouquet of people. We give thanks for children. Like tulips and iris, they multiply around us, making the world ever more filled with color, beauty, and a new life. May we bless them as they replant themselves ever further from us, knowing that they need their own space to grow onto. We give thanks for generous friends, as constant in bloom as echinacea, and whose gifts lift up our body and spirit. We give thanks for feisty friends, as indomitable as geraniums, and for continuous friends who, like bittersweet and ivy, hold on and never let go, and can never be gotten rid of. For crotchety friends, as prickly as rose bushes, their beauty a secret that is only discovered through careful gardening. For surprising friends, who at first glance seem dour, and then blossom into joy as quickly as Portia. For funny friends, silly as snapdragons, and serious friends, complex as chrysanthemums. For comfortable friends, their gentle presence as soothing as the sweet smell of lilacs. For stormy weather friends who stand by us in hard times, like lily of the valley that cannot be deterred by shade or shadow. For old friends, nodding like sunflowers in the evening time, and young friends coming on fast as flocks. For friends as unpretentious as dogwood, as persistent as pachysandra, as steadfast as azalea, and who, like snowdrops, can be counted on to see you through winter and remind you that spring always comes. For loving friends who wind around us like wisteria and embrace us despite our blights, wilts, and witherings. And finally, for forget-me-not friends, gone but never forgotten. Their beauty lives on in our memories and hearts. For this bouquet of people who brighten our lives each in their own way, we give thanks. Amen.
Let us join in a time of meditation, of prayer, and of silence. Seek not afar for beauty. Lo, it glows in dew-wet grasses all about your feet, in birds, in sunshine, childish faces sweet, in stars and mountains, summits topped with snows. Let us enter the stillness. Go not abroad for happiness. Behold, it is a flower blooming at your door. Bring love and laughter home, and evermore joys shall be yours as changing years unfold. In wonder workings or some bush of flame, we look for truth and fancy it concealed, but in earth's common things it stands revealed, while grass and flowers and stars spell out the name. The second reading is titled Song of the Flower number 23 by Khalil Gibran. I am a kind word uttered and repeated by the voice of nature. I am a star fallen from the blue tent upon the green carpet. I am the daughter of the elements with whom winter conceived, to whom spring gave birth. I was reared in the lap of summer, and I slept in the bed of autumn. At dawn, I unite with the breeze to announce the coming of light. At eventide, I joined the birds in bidding the light farewell. The plains are decorated with my beautiful colors, and the air is scented with my fragrance. As I embrace slumber, the eyes of night watch over me, and as I awaken, I stare at the sun, which is the only eye of the day. I drink dew for wine, and hearken to the voices of the birds, and dance to the rhythmic sway of the grass. I am the lover's gift. I am the wedding wreath. I am the memory of a moment of happiness. I am the last gift of the living to the dead. I am part of a joy and part of sorrow. But I look up high to see only the light, and I never look down to see my shadow. This is wisdom, which man must learn. The anthem today is What a Wonderful World by George David Weiss and Bob Thiel. We had, it's going to be sung by Wayne Atto, Andy Fagan, me, Mary Schwalbe, and accompanied also by Bryn. We had hoped this piece would be our first choral contribution following COVID, but we're not quite there yet. So please be patient. We'll all sing this together in person soon. So we'll be doing What a Wonderful World. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow so pretty in the sky. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. Watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Today's presentation is called Flowers for the World, and is the collaboration of Jan and yours truly. We celebrate flowers as they represent the values expressed in our sixth principle, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. That bears repeating. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. How can we use flowers to illustrate this principle, you ask? We believe we can. First, the flower that represents peace is the lily. The one that represents liberty is the bird of paradise. The black-eyed Susan represents justice. Almost every country in the world has a national flower, using these three symbols of peace, liberty, and justice as the core of our flower ceremony. Just as they are the core of the sixth principle, we shall build our beautiful international bouquet, one flower at a time. The flower communion ceremony was initiated and created by Norbert Čapek, almost 100 years ago, 99 to be exact, in response to members of their newly created congregation in Prague desiring a more spiritual component to their worship. Their celebration was similar to what we have done in our sanctuary here in the past. Each congregant would bring a flower to the service to be placed in a large central vase. At the end of the service, each person would take home a different flower. This symbolizes the uniqueness of individuals and the coming together in communion to share this uniqueness. This slide is a picture of our vase 3 years ago when we were all together in the sanctuary. Čapek and his wife Maya were both Unitarian ministers. Maya was working in the US raising funds for their efforts in Czechoslovakia when World War II broke out. Norbert, and his daughter, still in Eastern Europe, were arrested and tortured by the Gestapo. Čapek was exterminated at Dachau in 1942. The story of this era is not complete unless we also remember the Reverend Waite Still, and Martha Sharp, who helped refugees escape Nazi persecution in Germany beginning in 1939. They are credited with establishing what we know today as the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. We honor this branch of the UUA with our annual Guest at Your Table service and campaign. Their mission statement reads, "The UUSC advances human rights and social justice around the world, partnering with those who confront unjust power structures and mobilizing to challenge oppressive policies. Our work is grounded in the belief that all people have inherent power and dignity." UUSC works year-round, and you can explore the website to access ways to become involved. So, to flesh out our slim bouquet of 3 flowers, we'd like to add the national flowers that represent some of the countries and partners with whom the UUSC is currently working. First, for Mexico, we'll add a dahlia. CAPAS, the Congregational Accompaniment Program for Asylum Seekers, partners together with an organization called Al Otro Lado, the other side, to connect volunteers with families who have been separated at the Mexican border. The dahlia represents dignity. Vecina is a legal aid organization that resettles displaced persons. Vecina, which is not an acronym and means neighbor in Spanish, is based in Austin, Texas, and empowers immigrant justice advocates through mentoring attorneys, educating communities, and mobilizing volunteers. One of their most recent missions is to support Afghan families seeking asylum. The national flower of Afghanistan is the tulip. The tulip represents perfect love. There's an interesting story from Persian folklore, part true, part fable. Before Romeo and Juliet, there was Shireen and Farhad. The tragic tale has it that the first tulip bloomed from the blood of these two star-crossed lovers. Let us add a tulip, and by doing so, we add the component of love to our bouquet. The UUSJ, Unitarian Universalists for Social Justice, and the UUSC, our service committee, have joined forces to restore asylum to people at our southern border, where Mexican and Haitian populations are disproportionately targeted. In the past 12 months, spanning 2021 and 2022, over 700,000 expulsions have occurred. Also in Boston, the IFSI, the Immigrant Family Services Group, connects sponsors with Haitians who are released from detention and would otherwise be deported. We'll add hibiscus to represent the unity, love, and affection for Haiti, the country these people have been forced to leave.
The national flower of Honduras is the virgin orchid and will represent the partners in Honduras who work as water protectors. On February 25th, 2022, just 2 months ago, 8 Honduran human rights defenders who had been convicted as they tried to protect the population from being poisoned by the water from the Guapirol River were finally released. They were part of a legitimate protest camp called For Water and Life, protesting the pollution caused by the iron oxide mine on its shores. After a 30-month-long incarceration, their convictions were overturned in a win for human rights and the UUSC organization that supported them. The virgin orchid represents the national spirit, pride, and the identity of Honduras, and we add the virgin orchid. Victim Advocates International, VAI, seeks to hold Facebook responsible for stoking the hatred that caused Rohingya genocide. Rohingyans are a stateless Indo-Aryan ethnic group who predominantly follow Islam and reside in Rakhine State, Myanmar, previously known as Burma. It's believed that Facebook content increased anti-Rohingya sentiments so intensely that 750,000 of their population have fled Myanmar to seek refuge in other countries, such as Bangladesh. In 2020, the Rohingya youth petitioned Facebook for reparations, number 2, to acknowledge responsibility, number 3, for remediation, and 4, representation. They're 4 R's. There is no flower to symbolize home, so we've chosen Queen Anne's lace to represent a haven and sanctuary and to help a new house feel like a home. Along with this flower, we send along our prayers for the Rohingya people, whether they have settled in Bangladesh or remain in Myanmar. The national flower of Myanmar is the Pudauk, P-A-D-A-U-K, Pudauk, representing youth, love, and romance. It's interesting that the tree on which the flowers bloom is regarded as a symbol of strength and durability. These flowers that bloom in mid-April are closely associated with the New Year festival. People use them to decorate everything, including themselves, much like the tradition of the leis in Hawaii. Necklaces are presented to visitors to celebrate hospitality and goodwill. We would hope that the Myanmar people could share some of that hospitality and goodwill to their Rohingya population. The national flower of Ukraine, we all now know, is the sunflower, a sonyashnik. In response to Russian President Vladimir Putin's declaration of war against Ukraine on February 23rd, UUSC's president, Reverend Mary Catherine Mourn, issued the following response. The world is united in outrage at this act of aggression against the sovereign territory of an independent country. Putin's invasion of Ukraine breaks international law and risks plunging Europe into the most deadly war the continent has seen in decades. As people concerned with the humanitarian impact of any aggression or militarism, we condemn this criminal act. For the same reason, we call on the US and other Western powers to respect the rights and safety of people on all sides of the conflict. They must refrain from any actions in response to Putin's aggression, whether military or economic, that would harm civilians or otherwise violate human rights. A more recent post, I think it was last week, the UUSC declares, all powerful states must be held accountable to the principles of human rights. UUSC will monitor the situation in Ukraine closely and will share resources as they become available for those seeking to help people affected by the crisis. In the meantime, we join our prayers to those of people around the globe who cry out in this moment. We demand peace. We demand an end to bloodshed. We demand respect for human rights. The UUSC is ready as ever to help refugees from this latest of world crises. We've all seen the video or heard the story of the Ukrainian woman who passed out sunflower seeds to Russian soldiers to put in their pockets. So when you fall, sunflowers will grow. Long associated with joy and peace, sunflowers have recently come to symbolize strength and resistance. The flowers are not native to Ukraine. They come from North America and found their way to Eastern Europe in the mid-18th century, where they flourished. They also represent harmony, faith, and unending hope. A sunflower is ever reaching for the sun. Today, so are the people of Ukraine. We're going to leave the UUSC right now. Well, not literally, we're not really going to leave them. We're just going to move on and talk about an organization that some of us did not even know existed. I didn't. It's the UU at the UN. How many people knew this existed? Nobody. You did? No? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. 2 people. Antonio Guterres, the United Nations Secretary General and former president of Portugal, tells us, human rights are being violated in so many places, but we don't give up because we know respect for human rights and human dignity is a basic condition for peace. The first UU at the UN office was opened in 1962, encouraged by Adlai Stevenson, a Unitarian, of course, who happened to be the US ambassador to the UN at the time. In a letter to the UUA president, he stated, "Our ultimate security lies in making the world more and more into a community. All of you have the opportunity to share in the answer and thus help us build a more peaceful world." He was encouraging UU congregations to appoint envoys to have a voice at the UN. Today, over 500 congregations have complied. And I would just like to nominate myself. If we decide to send a Cambrian representative, it could be me, that would be fine. This year, starting this week, as a matter of fact, the UU at the UN will sponsor the Intergenerational Spring Seminar. It will run from Earth Day, April 22nd, which is this Friday, through International Workers' Day on May 1st, and will address the theme, displacement and human rights, all in for climate justice. All important issues. It is hosted in partnership with the UU Ministry for Earth, UU Service Committee, the UUSC, we didn't leave them for long, and the Side with Love community. UU congregations around the world celebrate UU Sunday, the 3rd week of October, and we hope to engage in that celebration as well. We return with Mary to build our bouquet.
UU at UN has 2 programs in Ghana. Every Child is Our Child and Queen Mothers. For 15 years, the UU at the UN supported children affected by the AIDS epidemic. They stopped funding this program in 2020 due to changing landscapes, but the ECOC, Queen Mothers program, is still functioning and supports AIDS and sexual education and guidance for young girls and pays for the education of orphans who cannot be placed with relatives. The Impala Lily, Adenium multiflorum. The national flower of Ghana has many symbolic meanings, the most common being purity and fertility. The sweet and innocent beauty of the lily flower has given it the association of fresh life and rebirth. But it is also perceived as an auspicious good luck flower. Since the desert rose plant is strong and adaptable to harsh climatic conditions, it is a symbol of strength, persistence, resilience, and hope. So as long as the impala lily, or the desert rose, is on your side, it seems you can accomplish many things. In India, the Holding program strives to advance social and economic empowerment and has done so for over 40 years. The Yakshi organization within that program works to promote the farming of wholesome natural foods and where food sources are threatened by changes in land use. The lotus is the national flower of India. It is a sacred flower and occupies a unique position in the art and mythology of ancient India, and has been an auspicious symbol of Indian culture since time immemorial. Lotus is the symbol of purity, enlightenment, regeneration, and rebirth. Its characteristics are a perfect analogy for the human condition, even when its roots are in the dirtiest waters. The lotus produces the most beautiful flower. To end our presentation, we come to the United States of America, our country, our heart, and our inspiration to aspire to the goals of both the UUSC and the UU at the UN.
The national flower of the United States is the rose. The earliest history of the rose in the U.S. is from indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest, but most modern roses were cultivated and brought into Europe from China. We have decided that the peace rose will be our flower represented today because there's a story which ties it into our bouquet very nicely. The hybrid tea rose was introduced in 1945. It has a remarkable history that started in France just before the German occupation in World War II. Francis Mailland, a third-generation rose breeder, managed to send budwood of a promising new rose known only as 3-35-40 to the United States, Germany, and Italy. The new rose was given the name Peace, as this was the hope for the world at the time. Coincidentally, the day chosen for the naming ceremony for peace was the same day that Berlin fell in World War II. So in 1986, more than 40 years later, during a ceremony at the White House Rose Garden, the rose was declared the national flower of the United States by President Ronald Reagan. We shall add the rose to our international bouquet. It looks really pretty, doesn't it? While the United States, as a beacon of hope to many, is not and has often not been the leader in human rights. Our history of colonization and colonialism has manifested itself time and time again. Even now, our support of a Haitian leader who brutalizes his own people is in complete opposition to the UUSC's commitment to the people of that country who have been forced to flee. It's far from a perfect world, and we are far from a perfect country, but we can say that we are a more perfect union than many. And in conjunction with organizations like the UUSC and the UU at the UN, we endeavor to be more of a beacon than a bane. Our virtual bouquet of flowers from around the world is symbolic of our interconnectedness and our goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And so it is with humility and hope that we present our international bouquet. Flowers are part of our world. We appreciate them not only for their beauty, but also for their richness and the significance they add to our lives.
We will end our presentation today with a prayer for the world by Amy Petrie Shaw. Please respond with "We lift up our hearts." For all who die in war, we lift up our hearts.
For all who live in suffering in the aftermath of violence,
We lift up our hearts. For all who give their lives in smoke and flame,
we lift up our hearts. For all who go in honor of the dead,
we lift up our hearts. For all who have served, we lift up our hearts.
for our country and our world,
We lift up our hearts. For a planet that will find peace, we lift up our hearts.
for the young and the innocent,
We lift up our hearts. For the weary and the war-torn, we lift up our hearts.
for those who would pray,
We lift up our hearts. For those too angry to cry, we lift up our hearts.
for all of us, for the many names of God,
We lift up our hearts. Shanti, Shalom, Peace, Salam, Amen.
Morning offering will now be given and received. Please keep in mind that this congregation is entirely self-governed by the democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all of the financial support for the many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and institutional well-being. You are invited to participate in the blessing of giving. For those at home, please use one of the methods shown on the screen. Thank you. The doxology.
In colors bright, blossoms sweet, like flowers green when we meet. O source of life, our sunny rays, His beauty fills our hearts with We extinguish the flame of this chalice, and we know that the light of truth and love and the warmth of this community go with us until we meet again.
Please extinguish your chalice at home and here now. And as I said a minute ago, after the benediction, please join us for questions and comments. Amen.
Yes, ma'am. The benediction are words by the poet May Sarton. Help us to be always hopeful gardeners of the Spirit, who know that without darkness nothing comes to birth, as without light nothing flowers. Amen. Amen. So one day we're going to sing that. Amen. Okay. Thank you all.